I'm getting a audio feedback, so I was very confused for a second. Sorry about that. I'm Mark Bosco, the video producer at the Omni Group, and with me today is Dan Walker, the product manager for OmniGraffle. How are you doing today, Dan?
I'm doing good.
Excellent. And now I've muted that other audio, so I shouldn't be so confused. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Artboards, and we're going to, if you want to follow along, where should people go to get a copy of OmniGraffle?
Well, you can go to our website, omnigraffle.com, and from there is a download link, which gets you a free trial, or includes a free trial for 14 days. There you can try out both Pro and Standard. And it's also available as a free download from the Mac App Store, where you also get the 14-day free trial.
Okay, great. And Artboards it's Pro-only feature.
That's right.
But it defaults to the Pro version in the trial, so even if you haven't bought it yet, you can still follow along and see if it's right for you.
That's right. Cool. All right, so there's going to be a couple of terms that we're going to kind of toss around today as we're talking Artboards. It's kind of like the general term for the feature, but we have Artboard layers that the Artboard objects live on. So if we need to distinguish between the shapes that are your Artboard and the layer that they live on, it'll be Artboard objects and Artboard layers.
Okay. And this is something that we'll reiterate a few times, but the important thing to remember about Artboards, it's a shape that lives on an Artboard layer, and that gives it special features, right? And we'll get into what those special features are, but that only applies to layers that are above the Artboard layer, and you can also have layers below the Artboard layer. And so it's like if you're designing an icon, you could design your icon on the layers above the Artboard layer. Your Artboard defines the boundaries of the icon that you want to maybe export later. And then below the Artboard layer, you could have a background that you can use, like if the icon needs to live in a toolbar. And you can have that on the layer below, so you can see it in context while you're designing it, but it won't export because it's below the Artboard layer. Only the layers above will export. But we'll see more about that.
Yeah, let's get into an example where we can kind of see how these objects interact with each other.
All right.
So here we are in OmniGraffle. Let's get a couple of shapes out here. Now I'm going to hold down the S key here to use my shape tool. Now when I'm holding down keys on the keyboard, you're going to see the little hint pop up to tell you what I'm typing so you can play along. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to hold down S and draw out a shape here.
And that's a feature some people may not know about in OmniGraffle, actually, that you can hold down the keyboard shortcut for the tool that you want to use. If you just hold it down, it'll just switch that tool while you're using it, and then you release it, and you switch back to the selection tool or whatever tool you were using before.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. All right, so let's get a couple of shapes out here.
Okay.
Let's maybe make this a cloud over here. Mm-hmm. Maybe this one. A little house.
Okay.
Let's see. What color is your house, Mark?
It's bright blue.
Bright blue. All right.
Wasn't my choice.
But we can just call this one Mark's house.
Okay.
Perfect. You got a little cloud up here in the corner since you're here in Seattle.
Yep.
Now, now we want to get an Artboard on here so we can start showing you the features and taking advantage of some of its power. Let's go up here to the Artboard tool. This works just like the shape tool, where you can draw out shapes. By default, mine is set to a rectangle, but you could easily draw out circles if that's your most common shape. Let's get one out here.
Okay.
And now we have a shape on an Artboard layer, so it makes it an Artboard object. And part of the power in OmniGraffle's implementation is that we can use our inspectors just like this was a regular shape. And that means I can use the geometry inspector to set a size. What would be a good size here?
Like 300 by 300, something like that.
Sure.
Probably.
All right. Well, let's get your house back in here. Doop, doop, doo.
All right.
All right. Perfect. Now let's get some content on here that maybe we don't want in our actual export or our actual work, but we want to use it for reference.
Okay.
So let's create a new layer. call this the background. And let's put it below the artboard, so it's not going to be impacted by the artboard's properties. And let's get a new shape here. Back up here. How about a adjustable shape? Now, adjustable shapes are kind of special. They get these 2 control points here, which means you can grab them and adjust this shape. And here we can start pulling it, and we can get some more points on here. And now
Super pointy.
it's super pointy. Set this to yellow. We have an awesome sun.
All right.
And in OmniGraffle 7, remember, we can come over here and rename things directly from the sidebar. So now we got our sun here for some reference. Let's zoom back out and pull our sun. Oop, come on, buddy. Come over here into the shot. All right, well, let's make it a little bit bigger. Nope. Grab, oh, there we go. Big sun.
Nice.
Get it into our shot here. All right, perfect. Now we have a great looking shot for Mark's house here. Perfect.
Okay.
Now we've kind of got this scene that we're building out here. Let's give it a name. What would you call this?
Mostly cloudy, I guess.
There we go.
All right.
So we got a mostly cloudy scene here. It might help you to actually label some of your content or label your artboards or your areas on screen. So let's go ahead and put a label on this.
Okay.
And because artboards are a great navigation tool, I'm going to use the name that we've set on the side here as the name that we show out here on the label. I'm going to do that by using a new variable called the graphic name. Sets it there. Once I click away, you can see that it's mostly cloud.
Can you show us those variables again? That's
Sure. We've got a ton of them
I think
in
a
here.
lot of people might not know about that. There's a bunch of different variables in this list that you can use that relate to, the name or the how many pages or, all that kind of stuff that could be information about your document. You can use that variable to actually show text inside your document. So as soon as it's updated, the text in your document also updates.
Yes, exactly. So let's go over here. And it's mostly cloudy.
Right.
All right. This is sitting right in the middle of my my document, so I'm going to move that. Fortunately for us, labels on artboards aren't included in the export. So even if I left this right in the middle, when I go to export it, it's only going to be the cloud and the house. Those are the things above it.
Okay.
And not include any of the labels. So
Right.
feel free to label these to your heart's content. Let's put this down in the corner here. Now we've got Mark's mostly cloudy house.
Okay.
Now, one of the workflows that we really wanted to support with Artboards was being able to iterate on a design within the same canvas so that you can see an evolution or you can see different options for a design. So let's make this zoom out a little bit.
This might be a place where, I know a lot of designers have used canvases. Like maybe you're designing an icon and you've got the giant 1024 pixel icon and down to the, 32 and 16 by 16 icon. And you might have the canvases set to those sizes, but then you can't see them all at once. Now with Artboards, it's something that you can have them all laid out on the same canvas and be able to see all of them so that you're sure that you're designing them in harmony with each other.
That's right. Now, when I created this duplicate, in fact, I'm going to back up and show this to you again.
Okay.
I've got all the content selected here.
Right.
Cloud, house, artboard, sun.
Even
I'm
the
going to
sun.
hold down the Option key. I'm going to drag this over here to create a new version.
Okay.
In OmniGraffle 7, duplicate maintains your layers. So the new cloud and house live on layer 1. The new artboard also lives on its artboard layer, and the sun stays on its background. So we want to be able to preserve that hierarchy, which is especially important when you're dealing with artboards that are paying close attention to your hierarchy.
Okay.
You can see this up in the menu system under Edit. We have duplicate and maintain layers.
Okay.
Now, if you wanted to move things to all this content to a specific layer, that's your copy and paste. So
Right.
copy is take all this content, paste it all right here where I want
So you
it
would
to be.
copy it, make the one layer active that you want to paste into, and then paste there. Then it would paste into that
Exactly.
single layer.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Now we've got this new design that we're going to work on, our new illustration. Let's move this cloud over here. It's a little bit off screen. That makes it partly cloudy.
Okay.
So let's change this here, partly cloudy. You can see the label here down in the corner automatically updated with my new version in the sidebar.
Okay.
So now this is a handy navigation tool, even if we don't ever export this. So if I'm using my new infinite canvas and I'm over here in the clear skies of the far right, I can quickly get back to my home in the mostly cloudy area just by right-clicking on that artboard and zooming right to it. Let's get back out here.
Reinhardt in the chat room, I'm not sure what your question is about Flash. If you want to rephrase that, maybe we can see about answering that. Oh, I see. It was a streaming issue with Facebook. Yeah, you might want to. If you're on Sierra, it should work. If you have an older version, you may need Flash for Facebook because they require that. But don't worry. The version we're gonna have another version of this recorded and saved and put on our website a little later, so you can rewatch it there anytime.
All right. Now to help you get a clearer picture of what's going on with these artboards, and let's take a look at the export panel.
Okay.
This is new for OmniGraffle 7. We've added a preview to show you exactly what we're going to be exporting when you click the button.
Okay.
So this pays attention to all the settings here on the left side here. So if I turn on or off transparency, you can see we put the checkerboard in there to show you what's going on. Now you can see that we've got two copies here. We've got partly cloudy.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually taken the name that we've used on the artboard and made that the file name.
Okay.
And over here, you can see mostly cloudy. So you can pre-label your exports for later use just by naming things in your artboard. And using the new export sizes, we can get different resolutions. So at 2x or at 3x. And as you go through, you see this. We had two artboards. Now we have 3 copies of that, or 3 resolutions of that. So we're going to have 6. And you can see that the names still show the artboard name, and then append your suffix on there.
Okay. So we have the 2 artboards, and then 1, 2, and 3x for each one, and that's why we have 6 exports there.
That's right.
And even if you type a different name in the name suffix field there, you can have that show up in the file name as well.
That's right.
If you wanted it instead of 2x, you wanted to just call it Retina or
Larger.
That does show up.
So now we have partly cloudy, larger, and 3x.
Right.
So whatever output you need, we can support that.
Cool.
And you notice that the sun was not in the picture.
Right, because the sun is on the layer below the artboard, so it won't export.
Exactly. Cool. Exactly.
So what do we have an existing document, maybe we created an OmniGraffle before version 7 that we now want to convert to using Artboards?
We didn't want to leave anyone behind here. If you've got existing content, you can quickly create or utilize artboards. Let's take a look at this example. This is an example from Andrea, one of our UX designers, and this is one of her mock-ups for what the export panel should look like.
And Andrea is actually going to join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. to do a full UX workflow session, like a user workflow from sketches all the way up to kind of like a mid-fi mock-up in OmniGraffle. So join us tomorrow for that. But back to this.
All right, so let's take some content here. I'm just going to select this. Grabbed a little too much, so I'm going to hold down the Command key and deselect these things. This is the content that I would love to use an artboard with. So I'm going to come up here to the Arrange menu and Make Artboard. This takes a look at the content that you have selected and finds the smallest shape that it can wrap around that to turn that into an artboard.
Okay, so
shrink
it just
wraps
looks
it.
at everything you've selected and just wraps it with an artboard.
Exactly.
Okay,
So you can see here we've got Artboard here highlighted in red that exactly fits our content.
Okay,
We've got an artboard.
very cool.
Uh,
So for user flow, I assume we'd want more than one.
That's right. That's right. Now this one is also showing a movement handle, which is something you can find up in the View menu. Movement handles create a little circle in the middle of the screen, or in the middle of your selection, that allow you to easily grab that content and move it. Now remember, artboards are affecting all of the content above them. So when I move it, it moves that content. This is it's a feature. The movement handles are something that we added for artboards to make them easier to grab, but it's actually really useful just in regular objects. If you've got a square, now I accidentally drew this on my artboard layer, so it's drawn a new artboard here. But because this is just an OmniGraffle object, I can grab this, drag it up to my regular layer, and boom, it's a regular object now. I can drag things back and forth, no problem.
So artboards they're just shapes, like any other shape.
They're just shapes.
Just when they're on the artboard layer, they turn into artboards. And you can drag and drop them one way or the other.
Yeah. In fact, here, let's get a new canvas here and do a quick demo. If I grab this object, get down here to our new canvas, maybe we put it like a gray fill on it. We've got, it's got some properties here. It's got a stroke, it's got a fill, and if we zoom in, we're gonna see it. The stroke's gonna get larger, the fill's gonna persist. But let's go ahead and create a new layer here, and let's make this an artboard layer. If we drag this rectangle up here into the artboard layer, suddenly it loses its fill and it goes down to a 1 pixel stroke around it. This is a property of artboards that allow you. This is so that you can see the content behind them. So in Mark's example earlier, if you want to make sure that you can see that toolbar so that you can make your icons match that.
And as much as you zoom in, it's always going to draw with that kind of 1 pixel border on it.
Exactly. They behave like guides. So I'm going to grab this guide here and pull it down. You can see as I zoom in, those guides continue to stay the same size.
Right.
So that's one of the properties of.
And when you drag the rectangle or whatever other shape onto an artboard layer, it becomes an artboard, and visually it loses all of its styling information. But it's really still there. If you drag it back out onto a regular layer that's not an artboard layer, all of that styling information shows back up.
So let's drag this here. Boom, we're back to gray. We've got our fill, our stroke back. We're back to a normal object.
Cool.
All right. Back to our example here. Sidetrack number 1. The movement handle here is on this object. Let's create another object inside of it.
Okay.
And let's say that it's actually behind that object.
So you have a small rectangle behind a larger rectangle.
Exactly.
It's totally occluded. You can't see it at all.
Even though this is behind it, I can still use the movement handle and pull it out from behind that other object.
Right. So all you did was select it in the sidebar, and then the movement handles show up. You can drag it out.
Yep. Even if you just
Resize
grab a
it.
piece of it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move that. Let's get rid of that.
Cool.
Okay. So we're back here. We've got our artboard here wrapped around it. Now, you can also take advantage of other Graffle functionality, like our diagramming tools. Let's come over to some other examples, and let's make a few more artboards. Come over here, convert this one, and maybe come over here. Zoom out a little bit here. Maybe take this one.
And that's in the Arrange menu. Make Artboard.
And okay, now we've got a couple of artboards here. Let's go ahead and hide this other content so that we can see what's going on here.
Okay.
So I've got these two artboards here, and I want to show that there's some sort of workflow or user flow between these two. So I'm actually going to create a new layer down here. And I'm going to put it underneath that artboard layer so that it doesn't impact any of my actual work. And I'm just going to use the line tool to draw a line between these two. Thicken that up so everyone can see. And zoom in here. Nope. Go this way. Let's see. Let's get back to our line here. Maybe put a little arrow on that. And so now we're showing like this. Let's get our content back here. Now you can see that the workflow in this case goes from this over to this. And I can move this this content around however I please, and the line is going to stay with it, just like regular, just like diagramming in OmniGraffle.
Very cool. So, and we should mention that so far we've basically only show you rectangle artboards, but artboards can be any shape at all.
Yeah.
Could be, circle. It could be that round rect kind of icon shape. It could be that OmniGraffle kind of network glyph that we have as our logo. So, any shape at all.
Let's take a look at this example. We've actually got multiple artboard layers here. You're not limited to just one. You can organize these things by calling out this artboard layer is for your icons. This artboard layer is for your website assets. You can still organize in the same way that you organize your regular layers. You can even create shared artboard layers if you're a fan of the shared layers tool. In here, we've got a circular icon. Again, these can be any shape. We have the iOS rounded cornered icon here, and then we just have a basic rectangular header.
Okay.
So let's come up and take a preview of these when they get exported. Here we have the circular version, rounded corners, and our larger rectangle.
Okay.
Now, one of the other really powerful tools is that you can overlap these. If I come up here and I use the Artboard tool to grab just this this icon here, now I have an artboard within an artboard. I can come back into the export panel and take a look. Now we've got 4 files we're going to export: the circle, the rounded corners, that squared version from that header, and the larger rectangle.
Okay.
Which means,
so to be clear, that's where we have one version that's designed inside our document, but we're exporting 2 assets because the artboards are overlapping.
Yes. This means you can come in here, I can take this, and I can make this the same color as Mark's house, and export this. I've made one change, but both of these assets now get that change. So you can see this as being really powerful if you need a rectangle or if you need a portrait version, a landscape version, a square version, a circular version of a single icon. You can do that in one export. You could even toss in some multiple resolutions.
Exciting. Cool. Well, thank you, Dan, for showing us all this stuff about artboards. Be sure to join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. Again, our UX designer, Andre McVitie, is going to be with us and showing us how to create a user flow document in OmniGraffle. And in the meantime, if you want to download a trial version or get more information about OmniGraffle, you can go to omnigraffle.com. That'll redirect you to the right place on our website where you can download the free trial, get support information, download the whole manual, anything you want. If you need any other questions answered that we haven't gotten to during the broadcast, you can email at omnigraffle@omnigroup.com, and our support humans will be happy to help you out. So thanks again, Dan.
Thanks, everyone.
And we'll see you next time.